So Spider-Man's clone, Chasm, is finally back. After being imprisoned in the limbo dimension during a Marvel event that happened a while ago that frankly nobody really cares about, he is finally back and confronts Peter. Now my name is AJ and let's get into it. So the story immediately picks up in an abandoned warehouse in New York where we see some kind of insane lunatic torturing some guy tied up and telling the guy, you know the mayor, and the mayor knows Madeline Pryor, and Madeline Pryor has Ben Reilly, and so if you want to keep your lungs, you're going to bring him to me. And just as this masked individual raises their fist to bring down their weapon to attack the person, they are stopped by someone saying, babe, it's okay, you can let him go. I'm back. Before it is revealed that it is Ben Reilly back as Chasm. And you might be wondering, well, who is this girl and how does she transform? Well, she is Ben Reilly's current love interest and she goes by the alias Hallows Eve. And her ability, well, think of Ben 10, but instead of transforming to aliens with a watch, she can transform into different horror creatures using masks. And as they are finally in each other's embrace, Ben Reilly goes on to say, it's a long story, but I am here. And I have found someone who's going to fix me once and for all. As Ben Reilly is kind of insane right now, at least more than usual, because during the Spider-Man Beyond storyline, at the end of it a bunch of chemicals dumped on him, changing him for the worse, which people have mixed feelings about that storyline and where he is currently, but I digress. Anyways, it isn't revealed who the person they are talking about is, but Hallows Eve's reaction to seeing them says it all, with her saying, dear God, not you. But we will get to this mysterious individual a little later. Finally, moving back to our favorite troubled wall crawler, Peter Parker, we see him on the phone talking to Mary Jane, and they're having a little dispute about Mary Jane's aunt and how she invited Peter to something but not Mary Jane, so Peter called her for confirmation. But it is revealed after saving her aunt and releasing her from Ravencroft, her aunt set Peter and one of the nurses there up on a secret date. And so with Peter Parker currently being single, with MJ being with Paul, which in and of itself is an entirely different topic and may or may not need an entire video dedicated to it, we see that this date is actually going pretty well and flowing naturally, with Peter and Shay connecting pretty well, talking about their lives and what they do. And just as the waiter comes over to ask if they want dessert, Peter's phone starts buzzing. He is getting urgent text from Betty Brant, saying how she is in immediate danger and needs Spider-Man now. And of course, this is all due to Parker's luck, because out of all the times a personal emergency like this could happen, it happens in a moment of him having a wonderful date. But seeing how Peter literally cannot ignore this, he runs off, saying how it isn't personal and he likes her a lot, as the waiter comes back and gives her the bill to pay instead. And as you see Peter running off to suit up, he monologues in his head what is going on. Betty has gotten herself into trouble looking for a way to clear her husband, Ned Leeds, after being brought up in the Hobgoblin's mess again. And if you know anything about the history of Hobgoblin, it was an entire conspiracy in the real story and in real life of who the identity of the Hobgoblin was. But after finally suiting up, he swings off to help save his friend. Moving over to where Betty Brant is, we see a bunch of armed men bust into an abandoned apartment looking for her, as they have direct instructions to either convince her to keep her mouth shut or even hurt or kill her. And with the men finally finding her from her hiding spot, they start to threaten and rough her up. But before things can escalate any further, suddenly there's a webline shot from out of the window, dragging one of the men, slamming him through, before we see a mean looking Spidey jump through the window. And right now, Spidey's on absolute timing, because if there's one thing you don't want to mess with Spidey on, it's his friends and loved ones. When people Peter is close to are in danger, that's when everything gets serious, and he even drops all the quips and jokes, with him immediately rushing forward, yanking one of the men with his webs, cracking his head upon the floor, before again taking the last guy out, all in a matter of seconds, with pure efficiency and power. And now safe, even Betty Brant herself recognizes this, saying, I remember you being funnier. And with Spider-Man responding saying, you don't get jokes if you point a gun at my friend's face. Basically just confirming what I said before, that whenever someone Spider-Man knows is truly in danger, all bets are off and Spider-Man is on go mode. But Spider-Man then questions why is she even here putting herself in danger. She then reveals that she had followed a lead that led her here, a lead that could potentially get her husband Ned Leeds out of prison. And with that, even Spidey knows what she's talking about, the Winkler device. In short, it's basically a device Roderick Kingsley, the Hobgoblin, used to brainwash Ned, and she needs proof of the machine's existence to prove her husband innocent. And guess what? She has found it here in the building. And as she leads Spidey away, they actually find the giant device. But of course, nothing can ever go good for too long. As they are talking about how they are going to call for help and get this device to the police, suddenly she hears growling. And she looks over saying, Spider-Man, I think there's a dog, in which we see a giant werewolf beast almost. And with Spider-Man joking around, saying, in what world is that a dog? But just then we see a big reveal. Ben Reilly finally reveals himself to Spider-Man, saying, careful, that's my girl you're talking about. And keep in mind, these two haven't seen each other since the Dark Web event where they came head to head and fought each other. Also, something I just want to note here, because he is now Chasm, he now has new abilities over a baseline Spider-Man. As you can see the little residual energy coming off of him, well, he can manipulate that energy into making constructs, kind of like Green Lantern. Also, his spider sense is supercharged, meaning not only does he have the defensive capabilities of the spider sense, precognition, but he can also use it offensively, hurting people mentally with his power, which is a pretty unique twist of his powers that I haven't really seen before. But all this would be more interesting if it was on a more interesting character, and not Chasm, because like, let's be real, who cares? At least his design is pretty sick though, I will give it that. And as I do a little catching up, Hallows Eve asks, who is Spider-Man's friend here? And Ben Reilly replies, that's Betty Jane. And with Spider-Man correcting him saying, no, it's Brant, Betty Brant. Ben Reilly is still stuck and confused, saying, I'm pretty sure it's Betty Jane, confusing her with Mary Jane, just showing how messed up his psyche is and how far gone he is damaged. With even Spider-Man picking up on this, saying, Ben, you're confused, you need help. But as it turns out, that is exactly why they're here, and presumably for the machine that they both need for different purposes. And with Hallows Eve saying, help is exactly why we're here, on the advice of our therapist. As we see, the Queen Goblin has returned somehow, after previously being killed by the Gold Goblin. So really an issue filled with people who we thought were gone or dead, coming back. And obviously as a Goblin, Queen Goblin really doesn't like Spider-Man or Peter Parker. And so with Peter not only having his situation with Brant, but now Ben Reilly is back and Queen Goblin, the odds are really stacked up against Peter as we come to the end of this issue. But yeah, what do you guys think about this? Now I know this current run of Spider-Man is almost universally hated, and even more so what they have done with Ben Reilly, but I don't know, I feel like this could be interesting depending on which route they go with him. More than likely, nothing is going to change and he's going to stay as Chasm, but he could revert back to the Ben Reilly we all know and probably want, but I wouldn't keep my hopes up. Also, in my personal opinion, with all these different spider heroes having certain upgrades or things to differentiate themselves, such as Miles getting his old upgraded, almost Super Saiyan-like abilities with his Venom Blast, Chasm here with his constructs and even offensive spider sense, I feel like in the coming years, Peter should get some sort of upgrade, or if not upgrade, an expansion on his already known ability, or at the very least, just make him competent, especially in the area of his genius and tech. But that's just my 2 cents. If you enjoyed, leave a like, or even subscribe to keep up with our future videos. As always, thank you for watching.